A body is under the action of two forces, 7 Newton and 10 Newton. Find the resultant of the forces if A. The forces are parallel and act in the same direction. Now in previous video we have already proved all the formulas and different cases we can have here. So remember, if two forces are parallel and act in the same direction, now I said the angle between them is 0, meaning they cannot have angle. So let me show that. So if two vectors are parallel and act in the same direction, as you can see the arrowhead. So now if I move this vector, remember I said vectors are movable. If I move this vector this way, you will see that it is head to tail, and I told you that vectors angle can only be formed tail to tail. Angle can be formed tail to tail, but not head to head or head to tail. So there is no how I will move this vector here that I can achieve tail to tail. It is only head to tail, so angle cannot be formed there. So that means angle between these two vectors is 0. If you like, move it here, it's still tail to head. So angle between these two vectors is 0, so it cannot. So let me cancel this. Now let's move on. So the angle between these two vectors is 0. So this is 7 Newton and 10 Newton. So now if I represent this vector as P and this vector as Q, then their resultant is P plus Q. So that is, if two vectors are parallel and act in the same direction, then their resultant is P plus Q. I've proved this in previous video, as in I've proved why the resultant is P plus Q. You can go and watch the proof and understand why it's like that. So now R is simply 7 plus 10. So R is equals to 17 Newton. So that's the answer for the first one. So now B, the forces are parallel and act in opposite direction. Now if two forces are parallel and act in opposite direction, so by the time you move it, if you move the vector, it can only form this. So if you form this, this is head to head, so angle cannot be formed here. Or you move it, or you move it here. So if you move it here, you will see that it is tail to tail. An angle can be formed here, and that angle is pi, or 180 degree. So I've explained this everything in previous video, so this is just example. So watch the previous video and understand, then we solve example. So now this one, if I call it P, call this Q, then this is 7 Newton, 10 Newton. So where P is greater than Q, yeah, and Q is greater than P, then my resultant here is 10 minus 7, that is Q minus P. So that means R is equals to 10 minus 7. So R is equals to 3 Newton. So that means if two vectors are parallel and act in the same direction, you are going to add the two together to find their resultant. So if two vectors are parallel and act in opposite direction, you find the difference of the two vectors, that is their resultant. And I've proved all the formulas. Again, check the previous video. I've proved all the formulas. Now I'm just applying it now to solve question. Now the C. The two forces are inclined at an angle of 60 degrees to each other. Now the two forces, so if I call this P and I call this Q, so we already know that they are inclined at an angle 60 degrees to each other, because straight down is 90, so 60 is less, so everything here is 90, so 60 is less. So just try and know how to sketch. The two forces are inclined at an angle 60 degrees to each other. So now in this case, this P and Q, so I'll put the P is 7 Newton, Q is 10 Newton. So now this is general case. Like previous video, I said if two vectors are acting at an angle theta to each other, then their resultant is square root of, I've proved this also, p square plus q square plus 2pq cos theta. So that is the general formula, in which I've shown how we got this also. Please watch the video, previous one. So now r is equals to root p square. So I'm taking my p as this one. Anything you see here is my p first, then the one you see next is q. So according to my own proof, any force I mention first is p, the one I mention next is q. You can use it for other questions too. So that will be p squared, that is 7 square plus 10 square plus 2 times 7 times 10 cos 16. So now r is equals to square root of 7 square 49 plus 10 square 100 plus 2 times 7 14 times 10. So you can press everything there direct. 2 times 7 times 10 cos 60. So everything is 70 there. So that means r is equals to square root of 49 plus 100 plus 70. So that is 219. Then r is equals to square root of 219, and that is 14.7 Newton, 79 Newton. So that is the answer. So if you look at the resultant here, after everything from A to E, you will see which one will have maximum resultant. So now let's find the direction for this. Remember, for the A part, two forces are parallel and act in the same direction. That means the angle between them is 0. Alpha is also 0. Remember, I said alpha is the angle which the resultant make with the horizontal. So alpha is also 0. So based on this question now, the resultant will pass through something like this, which is this 14 Newton we got. Y direction to the horizontal is this, that is alpha. I'm using alpha for this, so I've proved formula for this also to find alpha, which will be direction. So if you watch the previous video and the proof, so you will see the formula for the alpha. So I said alpha is direction, that is arctan p sine theta divided by q plus p cos theta. So I've proved this also. So for direction, you can watch. So alpha is equals to arctan p 7 sine theta divided by 10 plus 7 cos theta. But here our theta is 60. Our theta is 60 degrees. So 7 sine 60 7 cos 60. So that means alpha is equals to arctan. So 7 sine 60. That will be just press because sine 60 0.8660. So that will be 6.0622 divided by 10 plus 7 cos 60. So that will be 13.5. So now find the tan inverse. So just press your calculator. So 6.0622 divided by 13.5. So that is 0.44905. So arctan 0.44905. So that is 20. So alpha is, that is the direction, 24.18 degree. So that means the question, the magnitude is square root of 219 and the direction is 24.18. So the diagram will look like this. They are at 60 degree to each other. Then their resultant is there. Then this is my direction, alpha. So that means it has both magnitude and direction. The magnitude is that our square root of 219, that is 14.7 Newton. While the direction is 24.18 degree. So like that to the horizontal. So now let's move to D. Now D, the two vectors are inclined at an angle of 160 degree. So this is the same as C. So this is also two vectors acting at an angle theta to each other. So that means in this case now, R is still square root of P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos theta. So to sketch it, two vectors acting at an angle 160 degree to each other. So this is 90. So 160 will pass 90. So the diagram should be this, like this. So that means my diagram should be something like this. So it's more than 90. So that means here is 160 degree. So this is 10 Newton, 7 Newton, as in like that. So the resultant will pass through here. Y here can be our direction. So now let's find the resultants. So R is equals to square root of P. That will be 7 square plus Q square, that is 10 square, plus 2PQ cos 160. So because the angle in D now, the angle between the two vectors is 160. So it is only when you have the condition, and if you watch the previous video that I proved, you will understand. Now I'm applying the proof or the formulas in this question now. So now R is equals to square root of 49 plus 100 plus 2 times 7 times 10 cos 160. So that is minus, so to change this sign, minus 131.56. So R is equals to square root of 149. So add everything, 49 plus 100 minus 131.56. So that is 17.44. So R is equals to square root of 17.44. So that is 4.17 Newton. So you can also find the direction also. So now the E So any vector I mention first is the vertical, the other one is the horizontal. So just take note. So now the last part says that if two vectors are at 90 degree to each other, so if they at 90 degree, so you see that will be a right angle triangle. So this is their resultant, why this is direction. So I'm representing here, that will be 7 Newton, the first force, then the second force 10 Newton. And remember I said if two vectors are at 90 degree to each other, then r is equals to square root of p square plus q square. I've proved all this, I'm just applying it here. So now r is equals to anytime two vectors, take note, are inclined at right angle or 90 degree, this is their resultant. And we are not just saying this is the resultant, it's proven already, I've proved it. So now from the general formula, r is p square plus q square plus 2pq cos 90. So cos 90 is 0, so everything here is 0, so it remains this. So that's it. So if two vectors are at 90 degree to each other, that is their resultant. So now r is square root of 7 square plus 10 square. So r is 49 plus 100. So r is square root of 149. So r is square root of 149. So that is 12.2 Newton. So to find alpha, so alpha is arctan p over q. So if this is p and the force here is q, so that is arctan p over q. So this is also proven, we've proved this already. So arctan, what is p? So that is 7 over 10. So just press 7 over 10 is 0.7. So arctan 0.7. So that is 34.99 Newton to the horizontal, and degree to the horizontal. So the magnitude is 12.2 Newton, while the direction is 34 points, so approximately 35 degree to the horizontal. So that is magnitude and direction for it. So now let's do more question, that is let's move to resolution of vectors. So it will now help us in solving different questions again. So resolution of vectors, so just understand all this with their formulas.